I'm Dalia Khalife, and I am a multidisciplinary artist working with many different mediums. I move between paintings, a lot of performance, lately dance, and quite a lot of installation, and it very much depends on the theme I'm working on or the research I'm going through. A lot of the work has to do with performativity, regardless of the medium that is being used. And I initially started out as a painter, so I thought I was going to end up as a painter, but then of course, moving through my practice, I explored spatial scenographies, but also all the other mediums I just listed. My work around performance really started out from my master's in scenography in the Netherlands. And this is really how I started exploring performativity and performance through a lens of space. So how does one craft spaces that are performative within themselves? And this has materialized further into bolder performances or speaking of performance as its own medium. And then in Beirut, in Lebanon, around 3 years ago, I explored contemporary dance and experimental gestures and movement that became really incorporated in my practice. So I'm presenting a total of 3 different works. Those are totally new works that have been commissioned by NIKA Project Space. And all 3 works, I have to say, are very much connected with a research that I had started working on in Beirut, which has to do with sweat, but sweating not just as a mere result of effort or physical effort or exertion, but really more of as a political, social, and cultural sort of phenomena. And from here, this materialized in 3 different works. So one of them being a performance called I Woke Up as a Sweaty Human, which incorporates a lot of the points I have been exploring through the research. So moving from my very personal experience in Beirut, from my day-to-day, where I discovered that sweat is not only this thing that is erected out of the body, but something that really has a very multi-layered connotation to the politics or the state of collapse. Lebanon, as we know, is a state in full collapse, be it economical, political, or social collapse. Not only is it an ecological crisis that's resulted in some form of sweating that is influenced by the predominance of power generator as a substitute to limited electricity in Lebanon, but also there is this body that becomes more enraged, heavier, more exhausted. So there's accumulated tensions in the atmosphere, just like the aspect of condensation or evaporation. So those are all of these images I was using for my performance that also guided my movement language. My movement language went through a lot of acceleration and deceleration. A lot of it had to do with labor, but also gestures that come from a lot of microaggressions. So sweat not only as an aggressive phenomenon in Lebanon, but also as a moment of stillness that is a symbol of restoration, purification, the way it is seen in yoga or certain practices, certain healing and holistic practices. I'm also working with certain privileges that sweating sometimes is a pure liberty or an induced action versus sometimes it is a necessity in order to survive. So my movement language has been very much inspired by all of these themes, and I developed some sort of repertoire or some sort of directory that served both other installations that were done in collaboration with Mark Hamilton. One of them is an avatar that is a chatbot, but that very chatbot is also an anti-chatbot because it comes as a subversive critique against existing chatbots that are hyper efficient, very informative, and kind of like controlling. There's a huge over-dependency on chatbots like ChatGPT. This avatar is based on myself. It is an avatar of Dalia, the artist. It states as an experience that it is an expressive avatar. So the user is to select a list of keywords that corresponds to a whole palette and ranges of emotions I felt in the recent past. Basically, the user states how they're feeling, and based on the keywords, I or my avatar will respond in a certain gesture. That is not a gesture I feel in the installation, but it's a gesture that's been pre-recorded with a very elaborate motion capture system. And the movements come as a response to the user's quest or statement of feeling. The motion capture system has also been used for the performance. So going back to the performance, my physical body is on stage, but also I am dancing and moving in the backdrop of my avatars. So there's this also kind of interplay, but also kind of this paradox between myself physically, but also my avatars. And that informs a lot of my practice, which looks at this liminal space or kind of the space in between or the moment of rupture and all these paradoxes as a starting point for research and observation.